I wasn't supposed to be at that church, I wasn't invited, I wasn't welcome. My name was scratched off the guest list with a blue ballpoint pen. Literally, someone had taken the time to cross it out, then underline, 1 guest per family, just to be clear. Still, I came. Quietly, I sat in the very last pew of that white clapboard Baptist church. Behind a support column, so I wouldn't be seen. I didn't wear black, didn't make a scene, I just wanted to be present. Not for their approval, but for the truth. Ivy, my younger sister, looked beautiful, she always did. Blonde, graceful, the kind of woman our mother would describe as the picture of Southern decency. She walked down the aisle, holding our mother's arm, not our father's. He'd passed 6 years ago, they told people it was cancer, it wasn't. But that's not my story to tell, not yet. The pastor stood beneath the floral arch and welcomed everyone. He gave a short blessing. Daniel, the groom, waited calmly in his gray suit, hands folded. I saw him glance once toward the back of the church, he knew I was there. That wasn't part of the plan, at least not theirs. Then the pastor said it, the line we all know, all expect, but no one ever answers. If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. Silence, a cough, a baby fussing in a stroller. Then Daniel lifted his hand. There was no drama in his gesture, no storm, just a quiet, deliberate movement. Like he was reaching for a glass of water. The pastor blinked. Yes, son? Daniel turned slightly, facing the pews. I'm not objecting, he said. But I do have something I need to read. It's a letter from someone who's not on the guest list because she wasn't allowed to be. Murmurs rippled through the room like a sudden wind through tall grass. I saw heads turn. My mother's back stiffened, but she didn't move. Daniel held up a folded page. It's from Ivy's sister. Her name is Miriam. Maybe some of you know her, maybe some of you were told not to ask. Someone near the front, maybe Aunt Claire, gasped audibly. A few people shifted in their seats. A man behind me whispered to his wife, I thought she moved to Chicago. I didn't move, I didn't raise my hand, I didn't nod or cry or try to make eye contact. I just stayed where I was, quiet, unseen. As Daniel opened the letter and began to read. In that moment, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I wasn't the unstable one or the woman who had supposedly cut ties with the family years ago. I wasn't a rumor or a pity story. I was a voice they had erased, and now someone else was giving it back. And I could feel it, this wasn't just a wedding, this was a reckoning. There wasn't a single moment when they cut me out. No door slammed, no dramatic screaming or suitcase on the porch. It happened slowly, the way mold creeps through drywall. Quiet, certain, final. I was 25 when I called off my wedding. His name was Kyle. He was my mother's pride and joy, not because he loved me, but because he looked good in church photos. Tall, clean-shaven, finance degree from Lexington. But he had a weakness for girls who weren't his fiancée. When I found out, I did what I thought was brave, I left. My mother didn't think it was brave, she said, you've humiliated this family. I had already sent out the announcements, what am I supposed to tell people? I told her the truth, she said the truth made her look bad. The days that followed felt hollow, nobody came to check on me. No one from the family brought over soup or comfort. Even my sister, Ivy, then just 20, didn't call. She texted once, I'm sorry it didn't work out, Mom's really upset. That was it. By Thanksgiving that year, my name was no longer mentioned at the table. I found out from a friend that my mother told people I had taken a break from the family for mental health reasons. I hadn't, I was working 50 hours a week, renting a room over a pharmacy, studying for my nursing license. But the story worked for her, it made me small, manageable. Then they started shifting things. At Ivy's college graduation, I made the drive from out of state. I bought her a silver bracelet and a card. I sat in the upper stands of the arena. Our mother saw me, we locked eyes, she didn't wave. Later, during the family photo, I was told politely by a cousin that the photographer was just doing the immediate household. The photo ended up in Ivy's holiday newsletter, no mention of me, no trace. Still, I kept sending cards, birthdays, Christmas, little notes. Sometimes with a gift card tucked in, they were never acknowledged. Years later, I learned my mother would take them straight from the mailbox and throw them away. Sometimes she'd repackage the gifts and label them from someone else. Megan, our cousin, Aunt Beth, the dog. There was a family reunion in 2017, I wasn't invited. But someone posted a picture online, everyone was wearing matching shirts. Whitmore strong, all together, always, under the photo. The caption read, "Every branch, every voice, nothing missing. Except me." When Dad died in 2010, I found out a week later from a second cousin I hadn't seen in years. I didn't get a call, I wasn't listed in the obituary. He had been the only one who called me quietly every Easter. He once sent me a book with a post-it that said, "You're still mine." They buried him without me. After that, I stopped sending cards, not out of anger, but because it was clear I had been cut out of the story. They didn't just ignore me, they rewrote me. Like a paragraph that didn't fit the theme of the family newsletter. Deleted and replaced with something shinier, easier to explain. But the problem with rewriting people is that sometimes they show up again with their own version of the truth. And sometimes, someone else is willing to read it out loud. I didn't run away, I moved, I changed my name, I got a job, I started again. There's a difference. Some people disappear because they're lost. I disappeared because I was tired of fighting for a chair at a table where my name had already been scratched off the place card. I went north, rented a one-bedroom in Dayton, Ohio. Nothing fancy, but it had windows that caught the morning light. And a coffee shop across the street that never asked questions. I worked long hours at a clinic, mostly urgent care. Sprained ankles, fevers, worried parents. Some days, the work was all that reminded me I was still a person. I never told anyone where I was, not because I didn't want to be found, but because no one was looking. The only connection I kept was with my father's church. He had served as a deacon for nearly 20 years, and I knew they struggled after he passed. Every month, I sent a money order with no return address. Signed only. For the mission work, in memory of J.W. They never knew it was me. That felt safer, cleaner. And then, years later, came a patient I didn't expect. She came in pale, breathing shallow, a complication after a minor procedure. We stabilized her, kept her overnight, got her back on her feet. She was gracious, polite, and a little stubborn about the bill. She reminded me of someone, Ivy, actually, if Ivy had aged with softness. It was only later, through the insurance paperwork, that I saw her last name, Whitmore. Daniel's mother. I said nothing, I didn't have to. A year passed, then one afternoon, I saw him. He walked into the clinic with his mother for a follow-up. He didn't recognize me at first. I wore a mask, but my name tag said, Dr. M. Whitman. Close enough, his eyes narrowed, then he asked, "Did you ever live in Kentucky?" I nodded. "Do you know the Whitmore family?" "I used to," I said. He didn't press, not then, but a week later, he came back alone. "You're Ivy's sister, aren't you?" I didn't answer right away, I watched him closely. Waiting for the look, the same one my mother wore when people mentioned me in public. But it didn't come. "I just want to understand," he said. They never talk about you. Ivy changes the subject, but there's something missing in their story. I can feel it. I told him a little, enough to explain, not enough to accuse. I didn't leave the family, I said. I stayed quiet while they told people I had. He shook his head. I figured it was something like that. That would have been the end of it, if he hadn't come back again, 2 weeks before the wedding. He waited for me outside the clinic, holding a paper bag with 2 coffees. I'm not asking you to show up. I know you're not welcome. But if there's something you need said, something they've buried, I can say it for you. That night, I wrote the letter. It was short, no accusations, just facts. I told one story, the day Ivy showed up at my door, scared and shaking, months after starting college. I took her to a clinic across town. I waited in the parking lot. I held her hand. I never told a soul, not even when my mother blamed me for influencing her. Not even when she called me a disgrace. At the end of the letter, I wrote, she didn't owe me thanks, but she doesn't get to forget me either. I folded the letter, sealed it in an envelope, and added something else. A small cardboard box filled with birthday cards, some still in their original envelopes. Some with faded ink, all signed the same way. To Ivy, love always, Miriam. The envelope arrived exactly 2 weeks before the wedding. Cream-colored, gold trim, expensive paper. Ivy always liked things that looked like they came from catalogs. My name was on the address label, but when I opened it, I saw the line scratched out. Literally scratched, not reprinted, just crossed off in blue pen. Beneath it, a handwritten note. 1 guest per family, immediate members only. They had sent it out of obligation, or maybe as a message. You're not forgotten, just not wanted. I folded it and put it in the drawer, right beside the box of birthday cards. I didn't tell Daniel I was coming. He never asked for confirmation. But I knew what he meant when he said, if you want your voice in the room. I'd let them control the story long enough. So I drove down early that morning, 3 hours on a quiet highway, the sun still soft across the cornfields. I parked 2 blocks away, changed into a simple gray dress, and walked in alone. No one noticed. The church hadn't changed, still white-paneled, still smelling faintly of varnish and lilies. I sat in the last pew, behind a wide wooden column. I wasn't hiding, not exactly, just placing myself where they wouldn't have to see me. And where I could still see everything. Guests filed in. I recognized a few faces from my past, thinner now, older, grayer. They smiled and laughed, hugging Ivy, complimenting her dress. She looked beautiful, of course she did. She always knew how to look the part. Then came my mother. She walked down the aisle on Ivy's arm, chin high, face radiant. She didn't glance around the pews, she never did. If she couldn't control the room, she ignored it. Daniel stood at the altar, calm and composed. He glanced toward the back of the church just once and gave the slightest nod. That was all I needed. The music faded, the pastor welcomed everyone, opened with a prayer. Ivy beamed, Daniel smiled, it all looked so perfect. Then came the moment. If anyone here has cause to object to this union, the pastor said. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Everyone laughed softly, the way people do when they're sure nothing dramatic will happen. Daniel raised his hand, the laughter stopped. The pastor blinked. Yes, Daniel? Daniel stepped forward, not looking at Ivy, not looking at my mother, just at the guests. I don't object, he said, but I do have something I need to say. It won't take long. He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket, my letter. This is from someone who isn't here today, or rather, someone who was asked not to come. Ivy's sister, Miriam. A few heads turned. A murmur passed through the room like the flutter of hymnals being closed too quickly. My mother went still. Some of you know her, some of you were told not to ask about her. I did ask, and what I learned deserves to be heard. He unfolded the letter and read, no dramatics, no raised voice, just words. My words, delivered in the stillest moment of the ceremony. This isn't about blame, he read, this is about remembering what's real. Families aren't built from pictures or newsletters or tidy introductions. They're built from what we carry, when no one is looking, when no one claps. The air in the room turned thick. Ivy didn't move. My mother did. She stood up abruptly, face tight. This is not part of the ceremony, she snapped. This is not her moment. Daniel paused, looked straight at her. You're right, it's not hers, it's mine. And I'm choosing to say thank you to someone who should have been thanked a long time ago. The room fell silent, even the pastor said nothing. I sat in the back, quiet, unseen. But for the first time in years, I wasn't erased. Someone had spoken my name, and no one could unsay it. I stayed seated as Daniel folded the letter and tucked it back into his jacket pocket. He didn't say anything else, he didn't need to. The silence in the church wasn't angry, it was something deeper, disoriented. Like people had just been told the ground they were standing on wasn't solid anymore. And maybe it never had been. Ivy didn't cry, she didn't storm out, she didn't reach for Daniel's hand. She just stood there, still and blinking. Like someone hearing their own name in a story they didn't know they were part of. The pastor gently cleared his throat and moved the ceremony forward. Vows, rings, a kiss that felt uncertain, but they got through it. I waited until the recessional began, until people stood and clapped and music covered movement. Then I slipped outside toward the gravel lot behind the church. I didn't need a conversation, I didn't come for closure. But I heard her before I saw her, you really kept all of them. I turned. Ivy stood just a few feet away, holding the cardboard box I'd sent with the letter. She had it clutched to her chest, like a baby or a bomb. She opened the lid and looked down, dozens of envelopes, some yellowed with time. One still had a sticker from a pharmacy I used to live above. You kept sending these? She asked. Even after, she didn't finish the sentence. Even after you never answered, I said for her, yeah, I did. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw something behind her eyes I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. The girl who once snuck into my room when it stormed at night. The one who borrowed my sweaters and never gave them back. Why? She asked. Because I didn't leave you, I said, I left them, there's a difference. She nodded slowly, then shook her head, as if the motion canceled itself out. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied, just don't keep pretending I was never here. She looked down again, ran her fingers across the top envelope. I don't remember this birthday. You were turning 21. I sent you a card with $21 bills taped inside. I thought it was clever, you never got it. Her lips tightened, but she didn't cry. Was that the clinic story? She asked softly. I nodded. You asked me not to tell anyone. I didn't, until now. You shouldn't have had to be the one. I was the only one who stayed in the car. She closed the box. We stood there, two women who shared a last name but hadn't shared a meal in nearly a decade. The air between us wasn't angry, it was heavy. Like a door that had been shut for so long it no longer fit the frame. I didn't mean for them to erase you, she said. I know, I said, but it helped them, so they let it happen. She didn't answer, just turned the box over in her hands. I'm not asking you to fix anything, I said. I'm not even asking you to believe everything I've said. But you've got the cards now, you've got the dates, the handwriting, it's all there. She looked at me, really looked. I can't promise anything, she whispered. I'm not here for promises, I replied, just truth, that's all. She nodded once, then she walked back toward the church. And for the first time in years, she didn't look over her shoulder. But I knew she'd read every word. I didn't stay for the reception. I slipped out the side door of the church. Just before the rice and the photos and the cake cutting. No one stopped me, no one called after me. And for the first time, that didn't hurt, it felt like peace. I walked to my car, same way I came, alone, steady. On the way out, I passed the guest book table, where people had left cards and scribbled congratulations in silver pen. I paused, reached into my bag, and placed something beside the bouquet of white hydrangeas. A framed photograph from 1998, it was one of the few family pictures where all four of us were smiling. Mom, Dad, Ivy, and me, at a county fair, standing in front of a giant stuffed bear none of us won. The original photo had been trimmed years ago, my corner, the part with me, had been cut cleanly away. I'd found it in a drawer at my mother's house the last time I was allowed inside. But I still had the missing piece. I'd kept it, like I kept everything else. That morning, before the ceremony, I'd taped it back in. Not perfectly, the edges didn't quite match, but it was whole again. On the back, I'd written in small, even handwriting. I still remember where I stood. I didn't expect anyone to frame it or even keep it, but I left it anyway. Some things deserve to be seen, even if only once. Later that week, I got an envelope in the mail, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside was a single note, written in Ivy's careful, slanted print. From now on, I won't let them tell it wrong again. That was it, no apology, no explanation, just 7 words. It was more than I ever expected and exactly enough. I placed it in the box with the birthday cards. The ones with the ink fading and corners curling, but still signed the same way, year after year. To Ivy, love always, Miriam. I didn't keep them out of bitterness, I didn't hold on to them because I needed proof. I kept them because they were real, because I had been real. They had told the story without me for so long. Told it to neighbors, to cousins, to strangers at weddings and funerals. A version of the truth that was easier to carry. But now, the real story had been spoken, not loudly, not cruelly, just clearly. And once something's been spoken, you can't take it back. I didn't come to ruin a wedding. I came so they'd never again be able to pretend I wasn't part of it.